Hi, welcome to another interesting episode of the Young Women in Politics program. Now, like always, I have a set of two young women that are making strides in the governance space, in the politics space, and really owning their space and contributing positively to the space. So we have an interesting discussion on the importance of participating in politics. Now, before we go any further, remember to subscribe, like, share, and join us every week for more interesting episodes. My name is Anna Matesiame and I'm your host. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Anna.
Good to have you.
Good to be here. I'm so sorry, we're talking over each other already.
No, it's fine. So, Camila, you are National Youth Chairperson for the PNUP party.
Yes.
That's a big position for a young woman, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, to be in and it also carries with it a lot of responsibility, to be in the National Executive Committee of an entire political party. It does carry with it a lot of responsibility. However, I am very pleased.
And very equal to the task also.
I hope I am.
You are.
I really hope I am.
It's National Youth Chairperson. You're a youth.
Yes.
Which is it's positive that young people are able to lead other young people, which should be
the case, because you usually find a National Youth Chairperson with some grays and a whole lot of life experience, and you're wondering, it's just like, okay.
So it's very refreshing to
be a youth
in
a youth leadership position.
Yeah. And Chilengi.
Yes, Chilengi.
Hi, Chilengi, please introduce yourself. You are a public policy analyst and doing a lot of work in the governance space. So please tell us about yourself.
Public policy and governance analyst.
Right.
And currently serving as a consultant at two international levels. One with the African Union Commission as a policy consultant, and another one with another international body as a governance consultant.
Big hats you're wearing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, we say this all the time. Like, we have capable young women.
We do.
Very capable.
We do.
And I'm sitting with two right now. We have a very interesting topic. Interesting because politics is not a space that many young people participate in. So there are young people that are in the corporate space, for example, that want to distance themselves from the political realm. And also, not so many young people in the space when we really need representation. Young people make more than 60%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of our population. Parliament, for example, out of 168 members of parliament, you find that we have 25 women. Out of those women, we have one
female.
Only one female below the age of 35. So you see that the space is not really dominated by young people, even though we make the larger part of the population. So why is it important for young people, first of all, to look at the space like a space they can go into? Why participate in politics?
I would strongly say there is a lot of need for young women and just women in general to participate in politics, because a lot of the political policies that we see are decisions that are made in those spaces of politics, and they affect us at a national and the community level, and also they affect the livelihoods of the women. So if we don't have women representing us and sitting on those tables of decision making, we will be doing ourselves a very big disservice, because honestly speaking, nobody is going to be able to address, lobby and advocate for issues that women face in our daily community lives aside from the women themselves.
So true. And so how do we then create this space, like this political space that young people, for example, in the corporate world can say, well, let's step into it? Because without representation, like you are saying, policies are being made that then they affect us, but we are not contributing to them. So how do we then ensure that space is created within the political realm for young people?
Yeah, Just to echo on what Rutendo said here. Oh, no, you're introduced as Chilengi, my bad.
It's all right.
Yes. Yeah, just to echo what Chilengi said. Number one, I feel like keys to doing this is, first of all, address the importance, help them see the importance of it. And after you see the importance, and after you help them see the importance of it, I feel like it is very key to show them how. How is it that they can come into these places and participate? And I would say that, aside from young people perhaps not even seeing the importance, especially young women, not seeing the importance of their participation within politics and especially within a democracy, I feel like those who do understand the importance, they see the dangers of it. So I definitely feel like safe spaces need to be created in order for women to participate in politics, because there are so many barriers to participation in politics. Number one, you do have one of the most obvious, sexual harassment, such as young women participating in politics are actually seen to have loose morals, which impacts them directly with regards to their lives. I mean, just being a young woman in politics is going to limit many opportunities for you in terms of job-wise. If you're not in the NGO space, it is really hard for you, because a lot of businesses will find that they have business within government, and because you are in politics, you're seen your conflict of interest. Even if you are capable, even if you are able to do a job and contribute well to an organization, the thing is that it also gives you a reputation of you're cantankerous, argumentative, and many other stereotypes that will come with being a woman in politics. This is simply because a lot of the women that have been in politics for a very long time have actually suffered so much abuse, so much discrimination, so many hard things have happened to them. Others have had their cars burnt up, others have had their houses burnt down. And it not being a safe space for women to participate and get out the sort of results that our counterparts, the males, get, is what makes it very hard for just a young person. I mean, being young, you're already at a disadvantage, but being female, you're at double the disadvantage, because it even limits, for example, the partner you can marry. Because a lot of men, let me not generalize, that's a bad thing to do, because you will find very few people would want to put up with the sacrifice that comes with you being a woman. It would mean that you may not be at home as much, and you may say something in the media, and then relatives will just be like, look at these views that your wife is saying. And these are not things that I'm pulling out of my head. These are things which I've seen other women in politics come and say. It's like, look, imagine I say something on radio because I believe in it, and I know that this is something that's going to be progressive, this is something that's going to help, this is something that's going to move us forward, and then my husband's relatives, who may have a vested interest in so and so, come and say, look what your wife is saying in the media. Now I have internal conflict in my home. I can't go out and campaign for extended hours, because if I'm a mother and children, I need to think about the care of those children. So it looks like even to participate in politics, the barriers are so many. So what would encourage young people to come through is, like, number one, view the importance, and then also we must give young people reasons to decide that the sacrifice that comes with participating in this space is worth it, because Zambia is worth it. These young people are worth it. I mean, millions of lives depend on the sacrifices that young women in politics could potentially make, and make it a safe space. And I'm actually really so happy to be in a program called Young Women in Politics, which is empowering young women in politics, because I mean, the more of us that are there to speak, that are there to share our stories, that are there to present the narrative, to say this is what is happening to us, and open up the space. If we're here to speak for ourselves, and if we even have allies in the males that are there to speak also, he for she people that are standing, if we have more of such people, then it would definitely become a safer space. Because it's one thing to be a woman trying to assert that your allegation is true, to say that you have been sexually harassed, or you were or violence happened against you. It's one thing to say that, especially where there is no proof, but then it's another thing for a man to stand toe-to-toe with a man just to say what you are doing to this young woman, or what has happened in this circumstance is not right. So, just create safe spaces. And I feel like this requires allies.
You've brought out a lot of things, so it's like the negative stereotypes. that come with women participating in the space, but also cultural norms and everything. But what can we do in the political space to be able to change these, you see, to change the negative stereotypes? Because it really takes, I think, leadership in the political space for these changes to begin. So what should we do in the space?
Well, so here's the thing. Women need to understand that our role in policy making or in politics doesn't only come or start in the political arena. It also starts in the corporate world, in the institutions that we belong to. Remember, politics is about making policies. It's about creating a structure that works and that provides for the people within its mandate. As women, we have a lot of women who are not in politics, but yet who are actively involved in the corporate space and who are in the employment space. They also need to understand that it starts from there. If they are able to have a voice and participate in the policy making within their corporate institutions and in their organizations that they're in, be it at the academic level or even at the working formal employment space, then we'll be able to see more women coming and supporting other women when it comes to the political arena. So women need to understand politics is not just about the political arena, it's about policies. It's about being a woman who sits at a table and has their voices heard for not only themselves, but for other women within their spaces.
Yeah. So the idea is anywhere
that you where you are as a woman and policies are being made
on how you should be governed anywhere,
yes.
be it in the family, be it
on how an organization should run,
yes.
If it's the HR, what point of policies should be in the HR. If a woman is not involved in looking at those policies or those laws before they are adopted by their institution, it will come back and affect us.
Yeah. So I like that. That's a good start, because then it then shows us the huge disparity that is happening in our governance in terms of politics, because the numbers are too low.
Yes.
You understand? So we don't have women meaningfully participating
in the politics,
yeah.
But we have women in the policy or boardrooms that we need more of to raise their voices. And when they do that, they encourage other women also to do the same.
Right. So tell me about yourselves now. Like, how did you come to a place where you get to realize it's very important for you, one, to not be a spectator in governance, for yourself actually, in politics by joining a political party, and for you participating in policy creation, but also how you married it and ensured that the right policies are made in the governance space. So how did you then bring yourself to this stage?
Okay. For me, it was the moment when I was told that you cannot take up a certain position because you're female. And the reason being, it had never been done. And there was no accommodation for it at the institution to have a female leader at that position, because it had always been dominated by men. Yet, it was not in the constitution of the organization. So it then drew me to a point to say it's important then to, how do we look at reviewing policies at different levels of institutionalization, and how then do we also ensure that the women folk, the young women folk also are able to participate, because based on constitution they are not, it's not like they can never do it, but they just haven't done it due to the a culture has been created, and due to the lack of information, with the bias of it has never been done by a woman, so it cannot be done. That drew me into the space of policy and governance.
Right.
How do we then ensure that our policies are inclusive? If you look at even just our coat of arms in Zambia, there's a man and a woman there. We both hold those coat of arms together. That is a clear example to say, if we're going to go forward at any level of national development, we do it together. There is no man and man there. It's both genders that are represented there as key players.
I like that. It's
like it's in our coat of arms. It's in
and
our
that's
coat of
what we start
arms.
from in school. You start
Yes.
learning, what's the meaning of the coat of arms.
Exactly.
You have a woman,
Why
you
is
have
there a woman? Where is the man?
Yeah.
We grow and develop our communities, our nation. And as a Pan-African, I've actually grown to see that we develop the continent of Africa together
Right.
as daughters and sons of the continent.
Yeah, right. I like that. And Camila, what's your take? How did you get to be here where you now participate in actual politics? You know how everybody says politics is a dirty game and you go and join a political party. Yeah.
You know, and it is so right. You know, just when you say the word politician, think about the image that comes into your mind. You're probably thinking it's a middle-aged man, probably pretty dark-skinned with a pot belly. Isn't very, you know, you probably see. Unfortunately, in African politics, when you think of a politician, the first thing that comes to your mind is a greedy person, because even politics, or rather democracy, doesn't even have its definition anymore. Because I heard in a workshop just this past Saturday that politics is how the majority serve the needs of the minority, and I was just like, oh my goodness, that is a mess. So if people have this mindset within themselves, then it just shows you how much work we need to do in order to get people to see the role that they have to play within politics, especially in a democracy. So coming into politics, I had that mindset. I was just like, it's a dirty game, and I'm a communications expert. And so within communications, I was looking at the opportunity just to say, get my money, get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I pitched my services to the Party of National Unity and Progress, and they hired me. And within them hiring me, there was now opportunity to speak to people that have been on the campaign trail. There was now opportunity to speak with people who are coming into the party. Hey, what is it that you do? Why are you here as a young politician? Why are you here? So many young, vibrant people that are willing to die for this country. And I was extremely inspired by that. But the one thing that had happened was I was speaking to a fellow youth, and, you know, I was busy on the communication side. So for me, as long as the graphics were designed, the copy was ready, I was good. Yeah. The T-shirts had gone to print. I was fine. I was good. But then I had spoken to Gabriel Chanda, who is my fellow National Youth Chair. I'd spoken to Gabriel Chanda, and he had told me a very heartbreaking story about a family in Kalikiliki. And this family had given away their 13-year-old daughter because she had fallen pregnant away to the other family at 600 kwacha. This is in a country where we say we have abolished child marriages. We're proud for it. We're lauded for it. And this is simply because they could not bear the burden, the financial burden of a newborn in their home. And then my heart broke because, number one, you're not thinking about the safety of this very young woman who cannot protect herself in another family. Nothing guarantees whether she's going to be safe, whether she's going to be fed, whether the child is going to be safe, whether she's going to be fed. And you cannot tell me that a 13-year-old girl is a married woman. Like, not by any standard. No. And my heart really broke. And that was just one of the stories. There was another woman who had fallen pregnant with triplets, and then unfortunately her husband died. And she was crying at the fact that she is finished. At this point, I had to recognize my privilege, and I had to see that there is something that I can do about it. And the fact that, you know, there was something that I could do about it. And even if, you know, I was a young corporate woman, you know, the boardroom was the place where I felt most at home, most welcome. I mean, I was privileged to be in companies that actually gave me a seat at the table. I was making policy, and you know, it was easy to think, okay, let me change lives, but, you know, like, so far removed from the lives that you want to change. And to actually be in politics where you could have a meeting today and a meeting tomorrow and a meeting the next day. Next thing you know, resources are released in order for you to change that and to make that impact. So for me, that's what drew me into politics. The fact that I was able to do something where I can see something being done rather than being in a boardroom and everything was left to the number or the resources that were left in order for you to do corporate social responsibility, which sometimes is not that much. So that for me is what drew me into the political space. The fact that it would just be criminal to see the suffering that people are going through and to turn my back on it because I'm comfortable. I felt like it would have been really inhuman for me to go back and sleep well at night. And that's how come, here I am in the political space.
Interesting. So the exposure is one thing also.
Absolutely.
I think one thing about politics, we're talking about the importance of participation. Now, that's the importance of participating in politics, because it's about changing people's lives. And now those are the real issues. When we sit and make policy in whichever we are thinking about touching lives of people who are not even close to us, situations that you can't even imagine yourself in, where a 13-year-old is being sent away to another family that she didn't even grow with. Those are the real issues. Those are the actual issues that we identify and find reasons. How do I participate in a place that I change the lives of people who are not even my relatives, our country people? How do we make life better for somebody in the rural area, somebody that I cannot touch directly? I think that's the importance. And so now when you look at these kinds of issues, what other issues maybe are of your concern? Like if you were to participate or if you were given a political position, what would be on your agenda? What are the issues? Like we're talking about, like, what are the real issues affecting our country, your community, your direct community? Sometimes it could also be just women. Like what are the actual issues that you have seen and you say, look, there are gaps in these areas, whether we talk about policy gaps, and this is the kind of contribution that women, if given an opportunity to sit at the table, would be able to change. So what are just some of these issues I think that you can identify?
I think for me, one key issue is the need for us to depoliticalize development in this country. We need to see that the development for this country shouldn't be based on political affiliations.
Right.
The moment we do that, we'll be able to see real tangible policies coming into place and people willing to participate. Because one thing I love about Zambia, having had the opportunity of going elsewhere, Zambians love Zambia.
Right.
To be very honest, we love our country and we want the best for our country. We are willing to put in our best foot, put in our skills, our talents to develop this country.
Right.
But what holds us back the most, not only just as a woman, but even just as a youth, is the idea that most of these institutions, most of these sectors are very politicalized. So the moment we can depoliticalize our processes, our structures, our policies, we'll begin to see a lot of changes going on. You go to certain provinces and districts in this country, you find they're not developed, and you ask why, and the first thing is because they are not for the political party. Why should national development be attached to to political affiliation? No. Why should people not be able to get a good job where they are able to contribute meaningfully their skills? We have people who have gone abroad, who have come back home with skills, with exposure, with ideas and connections for investors, but they are not able to do anything because they are not affiliated to a political party. No, Zambia's development shouldn't be based on a political affiliation. Let it be based on merit and the skills that the people of Zambia have.
Right.
Then we'll be able to see a big change. Even for women, we will be happy to come into policies. We will be happy to go to parliament and pass calls for our bids for amendments.
Right.
Because we don't have to be politically affiliated, but all we have to be is just patriotic to Zambia.
I like that. We need you in the space. Right. And so, Camila, if you envision Zambia, like what's the Zambia you would like to see?
It's a beautiful question.
Yeah. What's the Zambia you would like to see? Really?
Zambia that I would envision is not a hungry belly and not a young person that can't go to school because they cannot. Not because they will not, but because they cannot. That would be my vision for Zambia. Like right now, the thing is that everything for me that has inspired me to take action came from a story. And so I heard of these people and they were talking about free education, and it was just like, okay, what good will that do? And there was a story of a young man. He's a farmer, and he has 2 children, and the sister who is here in Lusaka was asking him, why don't your children go to school? And his question was just like, okay, number one, they don't have food to take to school. Even if there is free education right now, they could go there and start learning. They don't have food. They don't have resources. And number two, who's going to look after the animals at home when I'm in the field? So the thing is that it's not about, sometimes it's not also just about, the free education. It's also like when the man is looking at, okay, if this child goes to school, and those animals get lost, what will they eat tomorrow? So the thing is that if our poverty is at such a level that we have to sacrifice a child's education in order to feed them, then it shows you that we really have a lot of work to do.
Right.
What I would focus on would be economic development. And as she said, make it a wide open space for entrepreneurs, just think tanks. Just make it a wide open space for everybody to participate in the economic development. So I echo what she says. A lot of the problems that we have actually stem from poverty. They stem from under-education. They stem from miseducation. However, if platforms were available for people to participate well enough economically, such that education is not a luxury in their context, then we would definitely move forward. The thing is that we're living in a country and in a sort of sphere in which people do not understand that they are actually the power centers.
Right.
We're also coming from a long history in which we had chiefs, we had kings. So our mindset is not necessarily set up in such a way that it supports democracy. Because even when we elect officials, we go ahead and start acting as though they're the kings, as though they're the ones calling the shots.
Right.
So where you have a paradigm of under-education and people do not understand that they are the power center, the thing is that we can only do so much in terms of wanting to change policy and stuff like that when the people whom you're trying to change these policies for might actually go and work against themselves by the things which they think are right, or simply because somebody came and gave them a view, or somebody came and gave them a bag of meal. They change their minds completely because they can't see that what you're doing is going to help them in the long run. But then they're seeing that, okay, I have a full belly for the next 30 days. So when you have to compare that, when education stops being a luxury in certain contexts in this country, then that's when we can say we're moving. So that's why I say my vision for Zambia is not a hungry belly and every child in school. And aside from that, please, can we end period poverty? Because
yes,
carnal knowledge is a choice, whereas a period is a period. You do not choose. You cannot opt out. So there's
see why we need
pads should be free, condoms
why
should
we
cost.
need
pass that bill already.
why we need more learned young people with ideas to sit at the table, to be there to pass those policies. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think this is an imperative discussion. We're talking about, like, it's the people. We're the ones that should hold people accountable. Let's remember, we put people in office. Also, we have the right to participate and also ensure that we hold them accountable. Also, it's one thing to have the right policies, but to ensure that we implement. You understand? So let's ensure that everything, we pass policy, but also ensure that we domesticate legislation, but also ensure that
and we
we
educate
implement.
people about them. It's also we need to
Right.
understand it. We need to understand it, understand the process that is involved.
Right.
And it's not something that's complicated. For as long as we have people and platforms like this that come on and say, let's have a conversation around this and simplify it for the masses who are out there to watch and listen and understand, and at the same time get information, the correct information that they can share through with their neighbors.
Right. So your last words, what's your final advice to young people to enter the space and participate in politics?
My advice is that listen, you are needed, you are relevant, and there has never been a better time. There has never been a better time for you to participate. And if you need any proof of that, just look at our last couple of elections. Our last couple of elections, the tides were turned because youth participated, because youth came out in numbers. So if you've ever needed proof that you are powerful and that you are needed and that you are relevant, like, this is your proof. And the thing is that we all won't be youth forever. So we also need to be anchors for the next generation to come on board and actually do something about the situation in this country. You're actually needed in order for that platform to be created. Because when we're 60 and we're old and we're gray, we're looking at securing our own families. But right now, where we have the time, where we have the energy, where we have the capacity to mobilize resources and to actually make a change and make a difference, please, by all means, if I could kneel, I would kneel. I'm on my knees. I'm begging you,
Rutendo.
come into these spaces.
Okay, I'm gonna sum up my last words
Yeah.
to the youth, to the young women. Remember, we're not only beneficiaries of policies, but we are contributors. We are also key partners to the achieving the development that we desire. So only until we get that into and believe it, we domesticate it and make it a personal drive, we will always be complaining and be at the receiving end. And believe me, the receiving end stick, we all know, is very small.
And short.
But yet, there's a lot of space that we can create and demand for us to be able to contribute meaningfully.
Thank you very much, ladies. We've had a great conversation. I think there is no better call to action. I think the space is ours. There's no better time than now. Let's be relevant in our various spaces. I think it goes beyond voting, but how do we hold leaders accountable and how do we participate in these spaces to ensure that we deliver the Zambia that we want to see and that we want to see for future generations. So thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and also look out for more episodes.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for having us.
Bye. Thank you for having us.